Lawrence from MBoss64, as I'm pretty sure the few of you know. Probably don't. But anyway, I'm going to do Dark Souls 2. I didn't put the 2 there, or rather Catherine didn't put the 2 there. She gave up. And this statement is very true, where you always give up, because that's what you do. At least with Dark Souls. Or most Dark Souls games, or most From Software games, because they like to rip your heart right out your ass. Well, anyway, Dark Souls 2 from Dark Souls the First, I'm just going to say that it was kind of a disappointment in terms of lore and even where the story goes, because some of the enemies, some of the places you go, they're really cool, but they don't make any sense. I'm just gonna say one part where you basically go through a forest, and then you come up into like this swamp-filled kind of forest or field, and then you go all the way up an elevator to end up in a lava-filled area with an iron castle. It doesn't make any sense. None whatsoever. So I'm just going to say a few things on Dark Souls 2, which I'm just going to be very brief and pretty basic. Dark Souls 2 is a fun Dark Souls game. In terms of combat, in terms of mechanics, it is fun. It is so much smoother than Dark Souls, the first. And when you connect hits, it feels great. But when you connect hits, you don't always connect. That doesn't make any sense, because the hitboxes are still fairly aggravating, as I'm sure they always will be in any From Software game. But that doesn't take away from the fun, unless you're up against a spear bearer, which it will always take away from the fun because they hide behind their shields. But anyway, Dark Souls 2 is a disappointment from the first one. It doesn't have that same kind of feel or energy. I haven't played the definitive edition, which I probably should, because I heard that it has everything that was basically promised with the first Dark Souls. Not the first Dark Souls, but when Dark Souls 2 was coming out, there was a lot of things promised with the lighting and everything like that. The torch was basically useless for you. There was no point to the torch. But let's see. Bosses were fun. They all had different designs. There were no bosses that were incredibly hard. A few bosses were moderately easy. It's a fun game, Dark Souls 2, but it's a beautiful game. It's actually more so a beautiful game than it is a story and lore game. Dark Souls 1 was kind of very basic. You had your castles and you had everything like that. But Dark Souls 2 took you to beautiful, different locations. It didn't always make sense to how they flowed, but it was beautiful in different locations. It is a fun game, but it is just a disappointment. That's all I really have to say on Dark Souls 2. It could have been so much better. And then there's Dark Souls 3. And I don't know if I'm excited for that. But anyway, that's all I really have to say. I was dead for a good while, so yeah. I don't know if everything on the whiteboard can be seen, but that doesn't matter, because stuff will go on anyway. That's all I really have to say. That's all I really need to go on about. Catherine drew my tears here. There are a lot of tears, they're overflowing. It grew a tree though, so that's fun. Anyway, goodbye. I should put a counter for how many times I say anyway. Goodbye! And enjoy the rest of your days and so on and so forth. Alright.